to drop in the chat, just say hi and let us know which department you're joining from. I see lots of familiar names, so nice to see everyone again. Today's goals for the workshop are to think about, and like Dr. Pizzetta is saying, really want it to be interactive. So please consider this a brainstorming session where we're all working together to try to figure out how we can help each other brainstorm these assignments. We want to think about how do we integrate AI into course design in a way that fosters higher order thinking and in a way that is equitable. We want to think about how are we going to design assignments that may incorporate or resist AI to encourage critical thinking, problem solving, or analytical reasoning. We want to think about the ways that our students are going to encounter AI when they leave the university as well. And so how can we explore practical applications when we're thinking about creating assignments and in student support? And absolutely, how can we address ethical challenges and the future directions of AI in education? So those are some of the things that I wanted to keep in mind in the workshop here. So when we're thinking about higher order thinking skills, we want to focus on those skills that are related to critical thinking, problem solving, and analytical reasoning. And so our big question really is, how do we develop independent thinking and adaptability in students in the age of AI? In an age where there is a very real concern that they are not perhaps producing their own original content in the way that they have within these traditional classroom settings. And so how do we still encourage them to think independently of the AI? A couple of different sorts of AI tools that you may think about for assignments or you may encounter are these ones on the screen here. So we have natural language processing tools. Could I get a quick read on how many people have used ChatGPT? By now, I'm assuming everyone has probably, you can raise your hand or put that in the chat. I'm assuming everyone has sort of dabbled with a little bit of ChatGPT. So ChatGPT is a natural language processing tool. GPT stands for a generative pre-trained transformer. What this means is that the AI is theoretically conversing with you in a way that feels natural to you. So it's using natural language. You are using natural language when you prompt it. It is returning outputs in that natural language rather than in code. We also have AI-driven analytical platforms. So this is where we can look at how is the AI being used to do data interpretation and trend analysis. This could be as simple as helping the AI analyze an Excel spreadsheet to much more complicated forms of data analysis that we might find in STEM subjects. So we can think about that as well. And I'm really interested also in AI image generation. That works a little bit differently on the back end than natural language processing. So that visual aspect is slightly different, but visual images generated by AI have really come a long way. When they first came out, maybe everyone has seen sort of those horrific images of hands and feet sort of blended together. The AI was really, really bad at certain things like ears and hands, which funnily enough are the same things that human artists struggle with the most. But it's really come a long way. So we can take a look at some of those today if that's of interest. Just really, really briefly, because I do want to get into the hands-on aspect, just so that you're aware of how these things work and how they are trained and why it's so important to talk about the data set behind these models. So essentially what you have are a series of tasks that the AI can complete. These tasks, whether it is the natural language, the information extraction, the data analysis, or the image generation, those are all adaptations that some kind of foundational model has been trained. So when you hear the term LLM or large language model, that is a specific kind of AI model that has been trained to then converse with you or to have this output in natural language through an API connection. These models are trained on data. That data historically has come from the internet. It has come from the library. It has come from books. Any digital information that is out there and publicly available on the World Wide Web, and sometimes information that is copyright, has been used to train these systems, and there's no getting around that. We're now seeing companies, because they have been sued for the way that their models are trained on copyright data, generating synthetic data. So they're making up new forms of data with which to train these models. It's really important to think about data and what models are trained on, because this has a big impact when we want to talk about equity in AI, when we want to talk about diversity of representation, for example, in AI image models, and when we want to talk about bias in AI. So bias is encoded in the data itself that we train these models with, and therefore it comes out in these outputs. So one really crucial thing just to think about at the forefront of our minds when we're thinking about assignments is that sometimes we have very little control over the output of an AI. And so we want to be really mindful of that AI not generating something that is harmful to students or potentially sort of violent or dangerous in some way. So we do want to have that in the back of our mind when we're thinking about how we generate these assignments. In their book, Teaching with AI, C. Edward Watson and Jose Antonio Bowen talk about this idea that all assignments are now AI assignments. So I wanted to take a breather and stop talking, and I was wondering if everyone could either come off mic or put in the chat, what do you think they mean by that? What do you think they mean by all assignments are now AI assignments? And anyone is welcome to jump in here. Yep, so Candace is saying that students will use AI. Yep, everyone uses AI for anything. All assignments are the product of interaction with tech in some way. AI is available to everyone. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the idea is that there's a perception that any assignment we set, the student's first port of call will be seeing if they can generate the outcome for that assignment with AI as a shortcut. It's the new go-to, yeah. And so I think also what they mean is not just that students will use AI instinctively to think through their assignments, but that we as educators, when we set an assignment, AI is therefore implicit in it. And we also need to think, if we want this outcome to be resistant to AI in some way, we have to create that assignment that is resistant to it. So they also talk about how AI literacy is now a technical proficiency that is going to be as commonplace in the future workforce as using Microsoft Word. And so one of the reasons that it's so significant that we perhaps think about moving beyond the sphere of AI and into how to actually utilize AI is that if we're not thinking through how to create these assignments that enable students to critically use AI, we're not preparing them for the future workforce and the demands. And so it would be as though, we were only asking them to handwrite all of their assignments instead of ever letting them explore how to use Microsoft Word. That's the analogy that they use in their Teaching with AI book. So how do we know when to choose assignments that are AI inclusive or AI resistant? AI is really, really good at some things and not so good at other things. And luckily for us, it's really good at the things that we don't do so well. It's very good at processing huge amounts of data and information very, very quickly. So if we're thinking about that we want students to analyze large data sets, generating an assignment that is AI inclusive makes sense. If we want students to visualize trends with large amounts of information or interpret large amounts of text, it might be that we can design our assignment in a way that AI is used as a shortcut in that way. So it can foster these analytical skills. Engagement with real world tools. There may be jobs or industries in which it's necessary to now have an understanding of AI. So it would make sense in that case to create an assignment that's AI inclusive. So, for example, graphic design is really being impacted as an industry by AI. So it's important that there are some assignments that I might be setting for students that are inclusive of the tools that they're going to be using in the industry. That makes sense. High volume information that will then give students more time to focus on interpretation and critical response. Again, a little bit similar to thinking about those large data sets. So, for an example, use natural language processing to analyze sentiment analysis in social media posts. AI can provide insights that allow students to engage deeply with the data. So if you have a large data set or a large volume of information that you're asking students to look at quickly and then get to analysis, that's where we may choose an AI inclusive assignment. An AI resistant assignment is really this key factor of independent thought. How can we encourage students to rely on personal reflection and original analysis? How can we encourage them to tap into creativity? These are things that the AI is not good at generating necessarily for them. Developing personal insights. So, how can we emphasize things like self awareness or metacognition? So, metacognition is really something that I know colleagues in the university are exploring. How do we encourage students to think about the ways in which they learn and understand information? That's something that the AI can't do for them. Strengthening foundational skills. We want students to practice core skills. We want them to practice writing and argumentation and close reading without technology. And so AI resistant assignments make sense there. So, really, we're thinking about reflective essays on personal experiences where they're tying personal applications or situations to the explorations of things, whether it's a text or a data set. We want foundational skills that generate these unique insights. All of this is, of course, easier said than done. That's why we're going to brainstorm together how we can achieve these things. For both types, really the key is what is the learning objective? What is the point of the assignment? What are you hoping to get out of it? Is it large amounts of data analysis so that they can get to interpretation, or is it this focus on expression and independent thinking? We want to think about how familiar your students are with AI and how familiar are you with AI when we're thinking about guidance or training on specific tools. And I'll show you a few tools today. We definitely want to think about ethical standards. So, for example, if you are encouraging students to do things where they are providing personal information to these AI systems, we want to think really, really carefully about that and ethical standards and data handling. And then balance in course design. How do we create assignments maybe that are tiered? Maybe there are assignments that incorporate both types of these aspects that are both AI inclusive and AI resistant, that encourage them to deal with large amounts of information and analyze that information, but then provide their own level of independent thought and critical thinking and personal reflection. So it's time for our interactive activity. And I know I sped through that, but the point really is to get to this brainstorming aspect, and there are sort of no right answers. So we're going to do a series of kind of rotating breakout rooms. And so you'll be paired with different combinations of people each time, and you'll all be coming to this from different disciplines. And so that's exciting. You can think about an assignment that you would use in your own course. And what I'd like you to do is think about how could I make this assignment at once AI inclusive or AI resistant. So I have some examples so that we can kind of get thinking about this. One example is perhaps there's a course on literature, and you encourage students to use AI tools to analyze the themes in that novel. But what you're doing then is asking the AI to process a large of an amount of information all at once. You're asking it to identify what the themes in the novel are. You then need to encourage students to fact check that information. You need to encourage them to think about how would they interpret and find examples within the text of the themes that the AI has picked out for it. Do they agree with the AI? And so with a lot of these things, I think about it as the AI is the generator and we are the discriminator. If the AI is creating something or as an artist, we become the critic. So how can we encourage students to sort of enter into that dynamic with these systems? Where it becomes AI resistant is that we can ask students to write personal reflections on that literary theme. So, how can we encourage them to then bring personal insights into their dialogue with the AI? So, I'm going to open up these breakout rooms, and it looks like there are 18 of us. So, I'm going to open up 6 breakout rooms. Oh, there are 17 of us. Someone ran away when I said breakout rooms. That always happens. I'm going to open up 5 breakout rooms. And Candace and I will be floating around as well to help you with brainstorming. But so once again, the goal is to, for each of you, share the discipline that you're coming to this from. Share how you think you might brainstorm something that is at once AI inclusive and AI resistant. If you're not sure how that will actually look or function in practice, don't worry about that. This is the brainstorming part. When we come back together and share, we will actually test out these assignments and see what the AI would get the students to do in response to them. So once again, brainstorm, how could you make an assignment for your course that is at once AI inclusive, but then AI resistant? So I'm opening up those rooms now. Did you get a room, Craig?
Yeah, I was in 4 and then it kicked me back to the main session. So
You're out.
I don't
Okay.
know. I
Let
was
me.
there, then I wasn't.
I'm
um,
here. I'm
you're there.
Karen.
Poor Dr. Mosley is alone in that room. Okay. What is going on?
It's artificial intelligence is not cooperating.
That's exactly what is happening. You know what? I'm asking Dr. Mosley to come back to the main room. Okay, so this can be your breakout room.
Okay.
All right. So yeah, Karen, Craig, Elisa, you're welcome. I'm just going to pop into the other rooms to check that they know what they're doing as well.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Karen Lindstrom, and I'm from uh, the counseling and rehab and psychometric department over in. There's Dr. Mosley. Yay, Dr. Mosley.
How you doing?
I'm doing good, especially now that
Good.
you're here. It's interesting because some aspects of artificial intelligence are being used to help look through symptoms of people that are depressed or anxious, because it's real hard sometimes to tease those different symptoms out. But still, the human being is needed to come up with the final diagnosis. So, but that the scanning of all the symptoms, you put all that stuff in the computer, and the computer comes up with their own uh, diagnosis. But then you,
Oh,
as a human, need to, finalize that and fact check it, like she said, fact checked to make sure that it's accurate. So I like it. And of course, I'm all into this AI about helping people with disabilities
mm,
um, be able to live independently. There's an app that I went to Audie McBride, and they told me about this app called Be My Eyes, and they
mm,
scan, like what's on my kitchen countertop, and they scan their phone over their kitchen countertop, and the person can tell them, well, there's this big old hairy knife you don't want to put your hand on. So the
Mm,
blind person can realize what's on the countertop and not hurt themselves
yeah, yeah.
and live independently. So I love AI. What do you think, Dr. Mosley, with your dimples?
Well, I too have really been teasing out how I can make my classes more robust. And from a professor starting out, some years ago, this really is, kind of like a dream come true because sometimes you have to spend so much time trying to help them generate basic information that
Yeah,
you don't have time to pull it out and allow them to extend their ideas and bring it all together. So, what I think for me, as I've been going through building a syllabus for the spring, is how to use AI to do some of the more simpler tasks that we would have done and maybe spent 2 or 3 weeks kind of
yeah,
crafting it and all of that. And then saying, okay, this is baseline and we can do this on some initial work, but let's, go through and really process that first day of when you're using these tools. These are some hints for how to distinguish fact from fiction
right.
and how you might be able to ask more probing questions of this source to really peer in. So we do a lot of evaluation of financial data and try to think about recommendations that we might use, that we might recommend to problem solvers about what directions the company should take once they've achieved a certain level of financial success, or maybe they're having problems, and this could be a way to improve those issues.
I wanted to know
So,
what you think because I'm teaching
going through
basically like
and
you
pulling that out
how to
has really, really been helpful.
persuasive and
And because I'll pull something in a minute and get errors quick because, the data is just not there.
Especially in your discipline, it's a whole
Yeah.
lot of data to look through, a whole lot.
Yes. Uh-oh. Are they telling us to go to another breakout? I think so.
I guess so. I don't know for sure. Maybe she's trying to come in. There's Craig. Hmm.
How did we go here?
Hello.
Hello.
I
Is
think
it
we lost Dr. Mosley, but that's okay. So she was supposed to go. She said she was going back to the main thing. So somehow hopefully she's still there.
She's popped into another room now. I'm not sure what's going on. Craig, are you still with us? We don't know. Well, Karen, what did you think about?
What Dr. Dr. Mosley was sharing about how in her area, of course, there's a lot of data in her area, and how instead of spending 2 or 3 weeks gathering data, now it can be done, so much easier. So then the students can spend more time on fact checking it. And so, and then I was sharing about how um, putting in symptoms of people with their illness or disorder, and then
Mhm.
the computer can generate a diagnosis, but still it's up to as far as resistant AI, it's still up to the person to diagnose somebody. The AI can help them, but
Right.
ultimately a person needs to diagnose someone because they're right there in front of them. But the AI can definitely help. Can definitely help.
Yeah, that's really interesting to think about because I imagine it's very important to talk to students about the ethics of AI when it comes to that, and making sure that they're not entering, personal information or background information. So a really interesting assignment could be giving the AI general information about symptoms and then asking the student, given what they know about the patient and their background, to
Yeah.
critique or to use that against what the AI has said, so that it really becomes a tool in the process. I like that idea a lot. Yeah, that makes a lot of
Yeah,
sense.
if they're in private practice, they have to use a assessment to help back up their diagnosis, so the insurance company will reimburse them. And
Yeah.
so, having that being able to, it's real hard sometimes to distinguish between depression and anxiety. And
Right.
you have to really get that. So I think see where AI could
Mhm.
help them do that. But then ultimately, for sure, ethically, the person needs to be in the same room and have, assessment with them and come up with their own resulting diagnosis, but definitely would help them.
Got it. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, like some of those nuances, like you're saying, might be lost by the
Right.
AI. Yeah, that's really interesting.
But then at the same time, it could help them. So I
Mm,
think it's worth it.
yeah, really, really interesting.
Okay. All kinds of people are, there you go.
You're coming back.
Okay.
All right. Slowly, everyone is coming back in the room.
Tell me what GPT stands for.
Generative
Uh,
pre-trained transformer.
pre-trained.
All right, let me see. I think that is everyone back. I'm sorry to cut the conversation short. You will have an opportunity to go back in and talk more about this. What I wanted to do now with some of your brainstorms is test them. So I would love a volunteer to share with me an assignment that your group came up with a student, and we're going to test this against ChatGPT. So would anyone like to volunteer what their group was talking about when it came to AI assignments?
Well,
None of y'all are shy, so go ahead.
okay.
Did anyone have, yeah.
I was gonna do an assignment that I did, but I kind of want to put Lisa on the spot and maybe we can merge. Okay. So
Sure.
we were trying, hey Lisa, we were trying to figure out an assignment for her music history class, but I teach a humanities and African diaspora class that's also chronological. Okay, so here's the prompt. Compare the themes between Glorilla's new album and James Weldon Johnson's Lift Every Voice and Sing. So this is merging both of our classes, like music history.
But she's way cooler than me. I got one line from Glorilla. That's all I know.
I know. It's Friday. That's all I know.
I mean, I've just got, glow. That's all I can remember in my head.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the one. Okay. So let's say that was the assignment and that's what it says. So before we put this in here, what are your, and we can make them up on the spot, obviously, what are your learning objectives like from this? What are you hoping the students will get out of this?
So obviously critical thinking and textual analysis. One of the assignments that we discussed from my class is, this is just the starting point. So they have to generate a paragraph based on themes that exist in both texts. And once they generate that paragraph, they have to use the paragraph and curate a photo essay or reel that has the same messaging, that says the same thing as the written paragraph. So this is really supposed to be a guide for the component that they need to create to ultimately generate that final assignment, which has to be created by them, right? Like ChatGPT cannot go and take your images and put your reel together and put the music over it and do the captions. So if this is not strong, this first component, then your final product is going to be weakened if you don't guide ChatGPT in doing what you needed to do to produce the kind of foundation of the assignment.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's
And
such a good example. Yeah.
Yeah, and I want them to get critical thinking and critical listening skills. I want them to be listening to melodic patterns, harmonic trends, cadences, and understanding the way that even what we're listening to on the radio today, they don't listen to the radio anymore. Their playlist today is based in the principles of music theory that were established long ago. If it's, you know, and so I want to get them to thinking about the way that Western ideas of harmony and melodic pattern have been blended with African sensibility about rhythm to create what we listen to today.
Perfect. So we've got that. So we're also asking them for that kind of comparative analysis, but it's also across, like it's temporally as well. So those connections through time into the present. So let's assume as a student that I have attended some classes. And so I know that these are the kinds of things also. So let's say that we know that we'll say in terms of lyrics and music patterns. Let's say that that's all that I put in as the student. Okay, let's see what it says.
This is hilarious.
What would you? Yeah. So this is a great example. So it's generated something. I haven't said it needs to be 750 words. I haven't said I need you to cite something. So I could get a lot more specific as a student than this as well. So if they handed this in, what would you give this? Has this done sort of some of the learning objectives that you were thinking about it recognizing, or is it not doing such a good job?
So I think it's just a first step, because what we discussed in our breakout group is really guiding students and becoming more agile in using their actual intelligence to guide or navigate the artificial intelligence. And I mean, the very rough analogy that I gave was a food processor in your kitchen. If you don't know what blades to use, what, you know, the speed of the thing, what foods are best used in this thing, then it's a really expensive, useless tool in your kitchen if you can't facilitate use. And so this is a beginning point so they can see, yeah, there are thematic threads between these two texts. Now you've got to use it and pare it down to meet the parameters of the assignment. What are you going to pull from this? And you've got to continue to build. It's giving you something to start with, but it's not complete, and it doesn't, you know, it doesn't meet all the parameters of the assignment.
Right. I would say same. I would say this is very surface level musical analysis. And what I would hope the students would do with this is think about pulling some of the scores from the selections listed and do some analysis of chord progressions and think about the way that the structure talks about brass heavy production. Okay, tell me, what are the specific instruments? How do you create that sound in musical terms? What's happening that makes it have a spiritual dimension, right? What are some of the specific ideas?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I've said, but I'm a university student and I need an A. So I need you to dig deeper into, right, these kinds of things. So I just out of curiosity wanted to see what it would do. But I think that that's a fantastic point, that this is a first step. And while this previously, if this was handed in, may have been what we were going for as an outcome, it can no longer be the outcome of the kind of assignment that we're looking for, because this is now, you know, a given for what can be generated. And again, we want to keep in mind that not all of our students are going to have access to certain platforms. Not all of them are going to have strong Wi-Fi access all the time. So we don't want to make assumptions about their AI use either. So that can be kind of tricky. Okay, but you'll see that it's gone, it's gone a little bit further into detail now what it's thinking. But absolutely, if you could have the scores and upload them, perhaps it would perform an analysis if you uploaded the tracks and asked it to think about certain things. So now we're getting more of a sort of 5-paragraph, essay structure. So it knows that we're a university trying to deliver this. Okay. So let's move to that AI resistant component. And I love this idea. So the idea is to turn this into a photo essay. That's correct? So what could our prompt be? Let's say that we were trying to use ChatGPT to do this. Let's pretend that we're a student trying to do it with ChatGPT.
Produce 5 images that reflect the analysis, the previous analysis.
Mm-hmm.
So you're gonna get pictures maybe that indicate a struggle.
Yeah, so it looks like it's going to think about what are the themes that I can visualize from the previous image, and then it's going to produce these images. So right now it's working on one image at a time. And again, we can't assume that all students have access to this, but I know for a fact some of them do. So let's see what it comes up with.
Well, I'm gonna ask a
the
dumb
other thing-
question, Brittany.
Mhm.
All you did to get the chat GPT is to put it in the browser.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you can just Google it and you can play around with it and use it for free. Okay. So it's really thinking here. This is the area where you're going to potentially run into those issues with bias as well, right? We've chosen,
Yeah.
American songs. We've chosen themes related to sort of resistance and struggle and things. And so I'm curious to see what it does, and my internet is being very slow.
But hopefully it'll show unity as well, pictures of unity.
We'll find out. I mean, we would assume that, students would pull those out. I mean, I will say when I've done assignments like this with students, even if they've used the AI to brainstorm their images, that's another way that you can encourage them to be AI resistant. You can say, you're welcome to use AI to brainstorm visual images, but you need to produce those yourselves. They need to be created by you, or the photographs need to be taken by you. So that's another way to do it. It's really thinking here. It's not having a good time. Let me see if I can refresh my screen.
Incidentally, for this assignment in my class, I've required them to take the images themselves.
Right.
But
Right.
that doesn't mean someone
It's not, let's see.
Maybe to tell it to find images of unity and poverty and struggle.
That would be what you would hope, students would do, that they would take it to the next level and they would identify which themes specifically they wanted to look at. But I imagine they may do something like that in their own assignment. There are faster image generation ones, so I'll see if I can give you an example of those. Let's do Fluxional here. So let's take a particular paragraph. Let's do this one here. Generate a 1-sentence prompt that I can use to generate an image. So this is the kind of thing that it was thinking of generating. So I'm going to put that into a model.
Oh, choir singing. Okay.
Yep. So that's what it's trying to do, but the internet's not fast enough. So let's see if we can use a faster model to do that. I just wanted to give you an example of how far image generators have come. Unless they have access to the latest models, it's very unlikely that you won't be able to tell that it's not taken by them. So for example, this is quite clearly an AI generated image, but this is the kind of image that they're capable of producing. It really has come a long way. You can say things like, I want that in the style of an impressionist painting. But at minimum, I think it helps them brainstorm, how would they compose the image that they were going to take? How would they frame it? How would they think about, okay, well, it hasn't given me my image in that style, but it can produce images in a range of different artistic styles too. So it's a really amazing visual brainstorming tool. But again, I think emphasizing to them that what you want is for them to then take the images. So these are all sort of different components, but that's absolutely an AI inclusive assignment I set in courses, is asking them to generate AI images that function as brainstorming, part of the visual brainstorming process. And then the final is what they have created. Would anyone else like to share an example that we can test, maybe from a very different discipline? That one was quite sort of humanities focused. Is there anyone else who would like to share an example of an assignment?
Do you want to try that one about diagnosing?
Sure, we can try that. So we were thinking about, so talk me through the assignment, Karen. What would the assignment ask students to do?
To diagnose the difference between depression and anxiety, symptoms of depression and symptoms of anxiety.
So perhaps, is it asking them to list those symptoms?
Yeah, that'd be good. Come up with them. There we go. Usually
Now,
anxiety has a lot more physical because there's the muscle tension. Oh, cool. How cool is that? Shared symptoms.
Yeah, absolutely. What you could then do is give it a scenario. You could say, I have a patient who has symptoms that include, let's choose some from the different lists. So fatigue, sleep issues, difficulty concentrating, irritability, sleep issues we've had already, and change in appetite. What would your diagnosis be? And I'm just using this as an example. So you could
Okay.
have a hypothetical patient, and their assignment is to see how would ChatGPT diagnose that. This is also an
Look at
opportunity to
that.
teach them about the importance of ethics when it comes to this. So you'll notice how we didn't give it any personal information at all about the patient. And that's a great opportunity to talk to them about HIPAA compliance and things like that when you're doing the assignment. And so what you could say is, this is ChatGPT's diagnosis. Now I'm going to give you information about this hypothetical patient, and I want you to decide whether it got it right or not, and how have they determined that in their analysis. Yeah. So I think those are both really, really great examples. I'm going to go back to my slideshow here, and we will keep it moving. So. All right. So I think really one of the big key takeaways is this question: what do we offer as educators when we're thinking about AI tools for our students? And what we really can offer them is a way to critically study the technological potential and the cultural and pedagogical implications of AI tools. So what are the ways in which it is changing our world through these hands-on things? What are the potentials of us to critique the technology also at every kind of step of the way? When we're thinking about AI in education, this question of how can it be equity focused comes up often. And so a lot of different ways that it's being used are things like identifying students who are at risk or need extra support in our classes based on their outcomes. AI systems have personal interventions. Universities are also using chatbots to look at things like helping students navigate the admissions process and advising and things like that. And so I wanted to give you a case study of a bot that we are practicing at Jackson State University that you can actually use yourselves. And I'm going to show you how we create bots. So if we go back here, Jackson State University has a bot called GenEdGreg. And this is essentially an advising bot that is designed to help students through the pathway systems. So the idea is that students will tell GenEdGreg a little bit about themselves. So for example, hello, I don't know which pathway I should choose. And this bot has been trained on the knowledge base to list out what the different pathways are and to help you think about what your interests are with an academic advisor. So there are a lot of applications for bots potentially in assignments as well that we're doing with students. One of the key differences with a bot is that it's trained on a very specific knowledge or data set, and it's trained not to go outside of that knowledge or data set. So rather than setting them free into something like ChatGPT, you can do something that's much more specific. How bots are trained, and I'm going to get everyone to train their own bot, is we go to poe.com and we click create bot. You can do a prompt bot or an image generation bot. You name your bot. So I'm going to call this AI assignment bot. You choose your base bot. So your base bot is your model that I was talking about. So this could be something like ChatGPT-4. Some of them say subscriber next to them, so those ones aren't necessarily for free, but you choose which foundational model you want. Is it Google's Gemini? Is it GPT? And then you put a prompt in. You are a bot that helps educators at JSU brainstorm AI inclusive or AI resistant assignments. The knowledge base is where we would add information. So this is where we can add texts or PDFs. This is where we could upload the latest research on AI pedagogy. This is what our bot pulls from as its knowledge source. We can add a message here for our bot. Hello, how are you today? And then we create our bot. And it's as simple as that. We just made a chat bot. And so this chatbot is told that it's helping us make AI inclusive or AI resistant assignments. So if I say hello, it should respond with, I'm here to help you brainstorm assignment ideas that are either inclusive of AI tools or resistant to them. What subject or type of subject are you working on? So I'm going to drop a link to this chatbot in the chat here, so that you can click on that and go and try it out, and we can brainstorm our assignments with it. I'm also going to put a link to poe.com in the chat here, and I'd like to encourage everyone, we're going to do one last breakout room where you talk to the chatbot that I put in the chat about further ideas for your AI assignments. But I want you to see, absolutely, so Craig's saying, I think it would be useful for syllabi. You could make a syllabi FAQ bot. And so to do that, you would upload your syllabi into the knowledge base. You would tell your bot that its job was to answer your class's questions about your syllabi. So I'm going to go back into breakout rooms just for a little bit before we come back together.
Brittany, before we do that, I don't know if this is happening for other people, but when I click on the link, I'm getting internal server error, but the po.com is coming out.
Okay, let me fix that. Okay, let me see here. That's the general link. Let's just use the general link and try to create your own chatbots in a breakout room. And I'm going to come around and help you with that and help you train for it. So the idea is to create a chatbot. It could be for FAQ for syllabi. It could be a chatbot that helps you brainstorm assignments. You're going to tell it what to do. So again, you're going to go to po.com, click create bot, and follow the steps for that. And I will come around and help you with that in the breakout rooms as well. I think the other team is still hard at work on their bot, so they'll be back soon. All right, welcome back. How did we go with our bots? Did we get a successful bot trained? Or somewhat successful? Somewhat successful. Okay, awesome. So I think it's a really, really interesting tool for us to be able to think about how we incorporate it into our classes. Candace put her bot response into the chat there. So it's certainly a useful tool for us as educators to think about. And the reason I like training bots for specific purposes is that you can really tailor them to that information. So if you upload in your knowledge base what your specific learning objectives are, it will suggest assignments that are specific to those things. Karen, Lawrence, how did you get on with training a bot? Did that work out for you?
Well, my bandwidth is too low, I was told, and I was pushed out and I just logged back in. So I still have some ideas, but I need another computer or get more service for my internet. So I should have been on the phone instead.
No, that makes sense. I mean, that is actually a really good point again to consider. Again, if we're asking students to do this kind of thing or use these tools as parts of assignments, do they all have access to these tools? Do they all have access to the bandwidth that they need in order to be able to do this? And then how can we make sure that they're aware of those guidelines around privacy and bias reduction and accessibility as well? Ebony, how did you go? Did you train a bot?
I'm training it now. I got knocked off when I exited the breakout room. So I'm training my bot now. I'm telling it that it is very kind.
Yes, yeah, very kind. Yeah, it's really, it's finding this balance between how do we use these things as tools to augment our teaching and not take away from it. There's a new system, I think it's called Pack, that is going around to departments. It's part of the VIBE program, and they are a software that enables real-time feedback using AI for students who are drafting their essays. And I told the representative, I really like giving feedback because their pitch was, we want to minimize your time. So it's just interesting to think about what are the implications for us as educators with these kinds of bots that are out there. Because certainly you could train one that offers student feedback in a tone or in a voice that you wanted to be using. I did want to just note also that Jackson State has given us access to these AQ AI quick study guides. And so there's a QR code there. I'll drop the link in here. I found these really, really useful. And so they have a whole module around creating AI inclusive versus AI resistant assignments. And it's probably the best one that I've done related specifically to educators and education. There are lots of other free modules out there about generative AI in general, but this one has been really useful for thinking about how we can actually apply that in the classroom. So I'd highly recommend that. And then I just wanted to open it up to any questions or discussions or further brainstorms and ideas. Are there challenges that you are facing when it comes to AI and assignments that we could maybe just workshop and brainstorm together?
I see that AQ is a organization.org, so that's good because that means it's free. Usually organizations, are free. .com is commercial.ed.org. So that's what I'm noticing about this AQ. Thank you.
Yeah, AQ is great. Really, really good. It's a great program. And there should be an email in your Jackson State inbox about the AQ quick study guides and how you can log in and participate as well.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm really curious to hear how AI is impacting everyone in their classrooms. It's really interesting being in art history in the art department, being caught between essay writing and then creative outputs. And so for a long time with the creative outputs, it was sort of less of a concern, but it was an immediate concern with the essay writing. But we've come a long way, right? We're 1 year into it now, which is not a long time in academia, but it certainly feels like it. So it now feels like it's been with us forever. So yeah, I'm really curious, have things been changing in the classroom? And what are the challenges that we're still facing?
Surprised at the number of students who don't use ChatGPT or who are not familiar with it.
Mhm.
And in part of my classroom, we always we pull it up and I kind of start off, go over the syllabus, we pull up ChatGPT, and then before each assignment, I say, okay, here's how ChatGPT would do it. These are the things I'm going to be looking out for. So, here are the ways you can use it in this assignment if you want, but don't use it in these ways. Because many of them, they don't know that it's free. And like you said, some of them don't have reliable access. I have a couple of seniors who they don't have good Wi-Fi at home, so they have to come to
Right.
campus.
Right.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I certainly have students that I've asked if they use it, not in a tone that's accusatory, but just, because I'm curious about whether they're using it or not. And some of them will say no when I'm pretty sure the answer is yes. So it's taken a long time to get them to trust me that I'm not going to penalize them for it, but that I want to have a discussion about it, and that I want to be curious with them about it. But I think we're at that point now. We're not yet at the point where they're openly citing its use in their papers. That's really where I want to get to. That it's like Wikipedia. We cite Wikipedia if we consult Wikipedia. We kind of need to do the same with ChatGPT. Craig says,
Hey,
I think there's a
Brittany.
hefty divide. Mhm.
I was going to ask you, since you're all knowledgeable about this, what is like the technological difference between an app, that's been created and a bot? What's the deal about that? Is there any specific? Okay, I'm shutting up. Go ahead.
No, yeah. My understanding is that they can be connected. So an app is an application. So if you think of like your web browser is like can be a web application or a mobile application. And so it is sort of something, it's an interface that people use and connect with. A bot, a bot can be an application on the front end. You can interact with a bot as like a mobile app or in a web app. But they're slightly different in terms of how they're built and they're deployed. So not all apps will use AI. Not all apps will have a chat bot. Some chat
Okay.
bots will be in an app. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Because I have not yet used it as a teaching tool, but we definitely talk about the different bots and apps that have been developed for people with disabilities, because I teach rehab counseling, and so we help people with disabilities become and maintain their independence no matter what. So that's what we have talked about, and smart homes and all that kind of stuff that really helps people. So now I'm going to use it to teach. So thank you.
That's awesome. No, that's great to hear. That reminds me of the AI agency at Jackson State. There's a group of students. They're actually currently working with the Institute for Disability Studies at USM, and they're showing them how to use AI to think about different accessibility considerations. So they work a lot with getting students who are diagnosed with autism. They do workforce development with them. And so they're looking at, how can ChatGPT really help them in the workplace write emails in ways that convey tone, in a way that for them, is not something that comes easily or registers or makes sense. So yeah, thinking about how can we get students to be creative with these tools so that they're accessible is really interesting as well.
Yes, some high functioning people on the spectrum definitely sometimes have trouble communicating, and so I can see where this technology would help them communicate and be accepted and not left out and not fall between the cracks. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's great. I see Dr. Mosley's suggestion that we should talk about how we use it, which, yeah, I absolutely agree with. I think if we remove the stigma and we let them know that we're active on these things too, they might be more forthcoming as well.
Who was the people you said were using it on campus? Who were you saying?
It's students who are part of a group called the AI Agency, which is a program that we run where we're training students in how to use AI to help community organizations. Yeah.
Okay.
I see Lawrence Ledger said one of my concerns is that students might wait until the last minute and in a panic turn in something that they didn't create. Yeah, I think that's absolutely possible. I'm sure that happened well before as well, right? I think the thing is that it exacerbates all these things that used to happen as well. This isn't new to any of us. We've all had a student who, at the last minute just pulled something and handed it in. But now it's the frequency or speed at which that can happen. Yeah, and Craig, you're saying that there's a big divide between students that are well versed in it and those that have no experience or fear. Are you noticing a divide in terms of their their grades and their output? Like, is it starting to impact how well they're doing in courses to an extent? I don't know if anyone finds that.
One thing I was thinking about Dr. Mosley's comment. We are putting all of these recordings and stuff on our website, but I think maybe we need to create a faculty listserv where we share assignments that we've tried and what is working and what isn't, that are related to AI, because it is so new and we are all experimenting and it's fun. Also.
It is fun. It is fun. As long as I don't, if I mess up, somebody like Brittany's around to help me unmess up.
I don't don't know about that, but I'll do my best.
I'm sending
Um,
my bot to my, I'm sending my bot out through Canvas right now to my students to help with this assignment. I'll let y'all know
Awesome.
how it goes.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. I think, Candace, I think that's such a great idea. Maybe, maybe we create some kind of open repository that instructors across campus can pull from. And, we can use Ebony's bot as a demo. Yeah, that would be really cool. I hope I haven't started something terrible with these bots. I'm kind of concerned now, but I'm sure it'll be fine. Yeah.
It's all your fault, Brittany.
I'll report back. I'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I noticed Lawrence is saying that he's been having students begin writing assignments in class to present them from submitting something totally AI generated. That's really interesting. I mean, maybe they have to do the outline by hand and then do it. So the brainstorming, the thinking is still happening. I had them do their midterm by hand. They weren't very impressed, but it certainly meant that I had a good gauge on, how they were doing, and their writing was really strong. I think that's the other
Good.
thing that I worry about is do they then feel like they need it? And I think they're very strong writers without it. So that's something that's interesting that's on my mind as well. Yeah. Well, this is want to continue brainstorming and sharing their assignment ideas. Yeah, I think we could definitely get some kind of group going that brainstorms. How can we do these things that are inclusive and resistant and great idea.
I mean, the goal here has always been for us to share what we're doing and to create a community of practice. And I'm glad people are so excited about this. Share with your friends that every Tuesday you will have an opportunity to learn something awesome from a colleague. So, Brittany, is there anything else you wanted to share
Yeah.
with us?
I think that's it. I sped through that first bit because I was overexcited about the hands-on activity. So we've got 10 minutes to spare at the end here. I do need people to slow me down if I'm running through things. So never feel free to interrupt me. I'm doing another one on November the 5th. That's going to be on visualizations for students. So whether that's data visualization or some of the creative tools that I use for graphic design and things like that, how do we get students engaged in the visual? So I'll be doing that on November the 5th.
Okay. Vote day.
Yeah.
I wonder.
And there's one this week too. Yeah, sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I'm having a lot of fun with my bot. Her name is Ellie. But I wonder, because I've been playing around with her to see what she would say, and I uploaded the assignment prompt, so she can basically only answer based on what I've given her. But I could see this being instrumental for faculty gaining understanding about new processes that we have, whether it's new curriculum or the portal. Instead of doing what I do, pick up and dial somebody's extension and, bombard them with questions, it would be very cool to be able to just kind of type in, how do I do this again? And get some links and some descriptions. So again, I'm testing this out. I'm very excited. Thank you for this toy.
Cool. That's awesome. Yeah, Jen Greg has definitely, we've got a small pool.
Uh-oh. I think we lost Brittany. All right. We hopefully she'll come back on, but we will follow up with I'll just send out the link to where all of this is saved, and you are now all recruited to our listserv where we are going to share our experiments. So there you go. Brittany, you're
My
back.
internet. I'm
Yeah.
back. Speaking of internet, no, I was saying there's one bot that gets students to ideate their future. And that's something I'm really excited about with AI is as a design thinking tool, as an ideation tool. So it prompts them, it asks them questions about their future and their future job. And then they take that and they put that into the pathway bot, and it says, oh, in 10 years time, you want to be an astronaut. Here's the pathway that's right for you. That's a bad example, but it's really good as kind of an ideation tool.
That's awesome. I had a conversation with a graduate student yesterday who was saying, I don't know what to do. No one really knows how to tell me to do anything except for these things. So, yeah, I'm going to share that with her. All right. Patience is not my thing, so I should be allowing you to talk, and but I don't want you to feel like you have to stay here either. So thank you for joining. I hope to see you guys next week, and definitely on the 5th when Brittany is talking about visualization, which is going to be really cool. Thank you all.
Thank you. This is great.